Hello, welcome to episode 148 of The World Beyond Belief. I am your co-host, Mindy Erkin, and with me today, as always, is your host, Paul Marco.
Hi, nice to have you here, as always. We have a real exciting bunch of topics here. I hope we can jam them all in. It's going to be really exciting. We're going to do CERN. We're going to do satanic death cults, which is a favorite topic of mine, and how the New Age deception fits in with the changes that the satanic death cult has in mind for us. And then we're going to end up with a short course in demon management. And you'll see why that's important as we go through the rest of this information. Now, sit back, relax, get your snack tray, get your tea, get whatever you need to do to relax into this, because we're going into the deep, deep, deep woods. All right, we're going to start off with some information on CERN. And let's play first some of the public information. You know, CERN is very deceptive, and they have a public face, and then they have some things that they're telling us on the side, kind of, and then we're going to try to figure out what's really going on there. So let's look at their public face.
Below this field is one of the most complicated machines ever built. A real-life time machine. Buried hundreds of meters beneath the French-Swiss border, this machine will shoot beams of energy around a 27-kilometer-long loop and smash those beams of energy together again at the end. This giant loop is the track for the world's newest particle accelerator, the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC. It's designed to peer into the origins of the universe and is the brainchild of 6,000 of the world's top scientific minds. Jeff Taylor is the head of physics at Melbourne University, but here in Switzerland, he's a key contributor to the LHC project.
As we come into this new era with the Large Hadron Collider, we are going to be discovering aspects of nature which we couldn't have dreamed of in the past. This is really the most exciting period for physicists, for scientists, since the beginning of the 20th century.
Scientists in Switzerland are attempting to disprove everything we think we know about, well, everything. Researchers with the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or CERN, are in the process of restarting the world's biggest particle accelerator. Known as the Large Hadron Collider, the restart comes after 2 years after the machine discovered the Higgs boson, or God particle, which is believed to be the key to how particles get their mass. But now scientists want to use the machine to disprove the Big Bang theory of the universe by discovering miniature black holes, which would in turn reveal parallel universes. And it only gets weirder from there. See, according to the scientist, if these black holes are detected at a particular energy, it would prove an alternate existence theory, or known as rainbow gravity, which posits that the universe stretches back in time infinitely with no origin point like the Big Bang. No word yet on whether Doctor Who will be available when scientists actually rip a hole in the space-time continuum. But we can hope.
Man, I mean, it plays right into kind of a little what you were talking about before we even hit that. That is, I mean, the Hadron Collider is something that, like, I know a lot of people are scared of. There was, like, an Onion article that a, time traveler came back and warned us about it. But, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the Hadron Collider, John. Like, where do you sit on this thing? Is it dangerous? What do you think?
I mean, as Tabitha pointed out, like, the question obviously is, are these guys up to some nefarious, plan to create a mini black hole? And if that then, gets out of control, then does it gobble up, the entire planet as a result? I'm not particularly concerned about that. I do actually have faith that they're, they have a certain understanding of what they're trying to achieve. And I think, as I've said before, the point is that we're really just at the basis of understanding our reality and our existence here. So the more that we can to endeavor using things like the Hadron Collider, the more exciting I think our future will be.
And I totally agree. I mean, it's part of the human condition and experience to push forward in life. That is the most important thing for us and who we are as a people, is to keep pushing forward and keep pushing our boundaries safely, but keep pushing our boundaries as mankind, humankind.
Before we get a little bit deeper into CERN, and we're going to go deep, 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 as I promised you before, let's stop and let's analyze a little bit how the mainstream media, which RT is the mainstream, kind of feeds you your notions on CERN here. We've got beautiful people, all three of them gorgeous, fashionably unshaven, just really, really neat, in a beautiful studio. Looks like it's overlooking the world, so they know what's going on. And then he asks him a question, what does he think? Well, Sean, who I personally like, rephrases the question. He says, do you mean, is there something going on with the leaders that could be nefarious? Well, it wasn't the question, but I'm sure that the mainstream media wanted to get that answer out. How could the leaders in the world, especially the leaders in Europe, EU, do anything nefarious? The whole EU plan is a nefarious plan. Bankrupting the individual countries is a nefarious plan. The World Health Organization and mandated vaccines, not to mention the ups and downs in the euro to make sure people are unstable. And then let's flash to Agenda 21. That's not a nefarious plot by the leaders. So why should we think that the leaders, especially European leaders, would do anything that wouldn't be in the best interest of the people? And then let's turn our attention to science. Of course, you can trust scientists because scientists have got their act together and they are smart people. And they certainly wouldn't do anything to harm humanity. Except history tells us exactly the opposite. Scientists are the ones that came up with the A-bomb, the H-bomb. Most recently, Ebola. They came up with AIDS. They came up with GMOs. They came up with global warming. I think that if you're going to trust yourself to scientists the way they're operating today, I think to say that, hey, the leaders will be fine, the scientists know what they're doing, I think you're really need another thing coming. I picked up this article in Joseph P. Farrell's website this morning and was reading about a new physicist. Well, he's not new. Actually, he was in What the Bleep is Happening. Amit Goswami, CERN physicist Amit Goswami, we have no idea what we are doing. And this is from Giza Death Star, the website of Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, who is a great resource for everybody on all things strange. I'm going to get down to the middle of the article. It says, then along comes Indian theoretical physicist Amit Goswami, who, fed up with the underlying Cartesian materialistic epiphenomenalism of it all, just bluntly proposes in Leibnizian fashion that consciousness, that's right, immaterial, incorporeal, metaphysical consciousness, mind itself, as it were, is the underlying bedrock of physics, and not a bunch of particles emerging from an endless Dirac sea of, well, nothing once again. Needless to say, his views are controversial. Now, I happen to agree with him that consciousness is the ground of all being, but you could talk me out of it. You know, I'm holding it as a perception that I find useful. Let's go continue. Well, now, Dr. Goswami has joined Stephen Hawking in warning about CERN's Large Hadron Collider, fearing that at some point something catastrophic might happen. In fact, he goes further in his article by saying we physicists have no blank idea what we're doing. We honestly have no blank idea what we're doing, admits leading quantum physicist. Now, if you know quantum physics, it's a wide, and theoretical physicists have a wide variety of flavors. And this one is really kind of opposite of Stephen Hawking's. So both of these people, coming from totally different, spawned in different oceans, if you will, are finding problems with this thing that Sean wants us not to worry about. Now, in case you missed the salient points, here they are once again. The University of Oregon professor warned that the European Organization for Nuclear Research, known as CERN, could potentially wipe out the entire planet if the project is not put to a halt. It's pretty dire consequences. I mean, that's worse than GMOs or even Ebola, I guess. Quote, seriously, when myself, Higgs, and Benjamin Locke-Spicer, CERN's first president, first pitched the idea, we never thought it would get funding. It was going to cost billions, for Christ's sake, he recalled. Blank knows what the thing does. No one does. Firing particles at each other at the speed of light can't end well. I'm just worried now we took the joke too far. Now, obviously, Dr. Goswami has no aversion to colorful language. One wonders really why he is using such language, and my speculation is that he is doing so in order to underscore the danger. Yeah, you scream loud when there's danger. Most disturbingly, he admits no one knows what the Large Hadron Collider is really doing, but wiping out the entire planet.
Please, everyone, calm yourselves down. Thank you very much. Today, we at the Large Hadron Collider are celebrating a one-year anniversary of a quaint, simple dream. A city-sized electromagnet in an underground layer capable of firing an ultra-energized proton beam at the speed of light.
Gutierrez, Baltimore Sun. What about criticisms that the LHC could have caused miniature black holes or unstable particles?
Wow. Someone's been reading too much science fiction. Yes. Anyways, no, we have not encountered any black holes or gateways to the multiverse.
I didn't say anything about gateways to the multiverse.
Did I say?
You did.
With what words did I say?
Did your eyes just blink sideways?
Let's move on to the next question. Yes, you, sir, in the back, please.
How did I get here?
In physics, anything is possible, right? Okay? I can take this glass of water and I can pour it upside down, and it's possible that the molecules will float up to the ceiling. But we all know that gravity will take hold and it will bring them down to the floor. Yes, you see here? And we're taking it and we're pouring it. Okay? Okay, so it's possible, theoretically, that we may have opened up a portal to a hostile universe that's planning an invasion of Earth. But I can assure you that everything is completely... Next question. Yes, please.
This is a question for the room. Let's say I wanted to annihilate this planet. What would be the best way to go about doing that?
Well, that was the public face of CERN, and of course a little hilarious little interview that I always like to play when I'm talking about CERN. But let's get into another aspect of CERN. Remember how what the control system does. They tell you the public face, which we've seen. Then they give you hints as to what's going on, and then there's really the truth of what's going on. So let's go into the hints of what's going on. I've got a couple clips here from my two favorite channels on YouTube, and I want them to be your favorite too. First is Truth Media Revolution, who just started his channel. He was another name before. And the other one, who I've talked about before on this program, Round Saturn's Eye. And they're talking about Symmetry, which is a little musical that they used to kick off CERN this March, this season of CERN. So it's an interesting little musical. It has a lot of hidden symbolism, and these two guys will do a good job in showing it for you. Hope you enjoy our introduction to Symmetry and what they want you to know about CERN.
It's just incredible. So we have here operatic dance performance filmed inside CERN. What this is a short film, and supposedly here tells the story of a CERN researcher who rediscovers love through the song and dance of the infinite cosmos. What we have here is an occult ritual and just all kinds of symbolism is what it really is. So Symmetry, its website says, is an operatic sci-fi dance performance based on the work being performed at CERN. It follows Lucas, played by the film's choreographer Lucas Timilak, a CERN physicist hard at work using the LHC to search for the smallest particle in existence, when a ghostly woman, played by soprano Claren McFadden, appears asking him if he loves the particle more than he loves himself, and if he could, would he become one with the particle. As Lucas increasingly tries to focus on his work, Claren's message becomes more insistent as she carries him through time in search of answers, tearing him away from the timelessness of physics and pointing him towards the timelessness of love and music. Yeah, okay. As he travels through time and inside himself, the claustrophobic machine setting of the LHC gives way to the bare, open, natural setting of Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni, I think that's pronounced, the world's largest salt flat. The film becomes a study of complementary contrast, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now let's look at here. So basically, this is a preview, guys, of the full-length feature that will be premiered at the film festival called I. Yes, the I Film Institute. Oh goodness, the first institute, and then later that week, two other film festivals. That's the first film festival, and then later two other film festivals that week. So this is premiering March 14th, the day before CERN is turning back on. And here's some of the images here. That's not in the preview here that I'm going to show you guys here in a minute. At the heart of Symmetry is the notion of time. Van Leer feels that we're in an era where it no longer means the same thing. With big data and technological advances like the internet, time travel, in a certain sense, seems possible. Yeah, I bet. Okay, let's watch this, okay, guys? Nice little ritual dance. It's awesome. Dance of the Cosmos. Who else is doing a dance right outside CERN, right? Shiva, the dance of destruction. Of course, nice little rings. Now he's in some other plane of existence, you know, he's in a... wow. dance opera film. Wow. Wow. Okay, so I'd love for a couple of guys, Bill, Occult Science, Round Saturn's Eye, take a look at this video, please. You guys can break it down, I'm sure, much better than I can. And but this just really hit me right now because of all the symbolism. Is what I will be covering in my video, on my upcoming video here on it. And it's just fascinating now. Oh, and I almost forgot, regarding the planes of existence, right? The dimensions. You know, it goes back to this term called the etheric plane. The etheric plane. And I know this term from going way back since I was a child, because I remembered this term always, of course, because I saw the movie Ghostbusters a billion times. And I know, you know, one of the guys, he talks about the etheric plane. Of course, that movie's very occult. And this is a term introduced into Theosophy, right? The Theosophical Society of Helena Blavatsky, to represent the subtle part of the lower plane of existence. It represents the fourth higher subplane of the physical plane, a hyperplane. The lower three being the states of solid, liquid, and gaseous matter. Of course, the idea was later used by authors such as Alice Bailey, etc., etc. Planes of existence, okay, which you know, it begs the question. You know, many people have brought up, which is a good point, that you know, most of these plane stories, or all of these plane stories, they also could have this meaning, this representation, you know, on a deeper level. Of course, they always represent several, you know, many things, you know, on different levels. The symbolism, it represents different things, and this could be a deeper thing here. Planes, whenever you see a story of a plane crash or a plane psyop, also has this deeper meaning of planes of existence, you know, symbolism, representation. In my opinion, I agree with that. So just, you know, keep note of that. You know, on a deeper level, you want to look at these stories in our corporate mass media. You want to look at these stories on a deeper level because there's so many layers to it, right? But yeah, let's talk about how. Let's look at this. I'm gonna go back over here. Let's look at the poster here. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, let's take a look at this. Look at the ring, and of course the underworld, right? CERN represents the underworld. CERN is short for Cernunnos, the horned god of the underworld. Is he not? So there he is, Cernunnos. I'll be getting into that. And you know, this poster reminds me, the eye, can't believe that. The poster, you know what this reminds me of? You see how he's reaching, you know, like he's ascending towards the top, like he's rising from the pit, like he's an entity coming from the underworld. Is it? Come on. You guys see that? Some of you guys may see that. And it reminds me of this poster here that I've covered so much in the past by the band Suicide Silence. And the 8 Ouroboros cube, right? The energy around. It's unleashing Pandora's box, unleashing the box like Hellraiser, the entities unleashed from the underworld, from the pit, from below, from the abyss. This is all that symbolism, because CERN essentially is unleashing of this cube. Guys, the cube, which is Saturn, of course, which is why I tie it to Saturn. And in my video, I get into that as well. But something else I wanted to tie into real quickly for you guys. I'll also be getting into this, but here we are. We have witchcraft, Encyclopedia of Witchcraft and Wicca. And take a look at this. The next morning, he rises up from the underworld as the sun, having learned of his brother Lupercus, who ascended and left his earthly throne void. CERN becomes the god of this world and reigns in his place on earth. Wow. So who else is the god of this world? Can name a few entities, right? Isn't that interesting? CERN, the god of this world. So we have the god of this world, the god of the underworld, CERN for Cernunnos, right? And, what I believe CERN to be is basically a modern day Tower of Babel. And, CERN has described themselves as a gateway to the universe, right? A gateway, and they found the God particle, right? They call it the God particle, the Higgs boson. And Babel, the word Babel means gate of God, right? It is quite bizarre, but once you connect all the pieces, the picture becomes quite clear.
And CERN itself, as many of already know, I'm sure, but CERN itself has the 666 in it, of course, and the whole thing, the whole logo is a three-dimensional shaft, a three-dimensional tower, and it's CERN, it's Cernunnos, god of fertility, the underworld, the horned god. Of course, fertility, because the alchemical fertility, male, female, red, blue, fire, water, the alchemy of the gate, of what they're doing to form a gate. As we know with CERN, opening of the pit, just like you see in the Mayan depictions of the same kind of instrument leading directly down into the pit, in search for the smallest particle, the ring. The ring. The whole thing being a ring, of course. But the ring, what is a ring? It's a tone, it's a vibration, a ring. And it's all to do with cosmic dance, tones, vibrations. CERN brought out a musical instrumental score of their information, remember? And this trailer is alluding to the opening of the pit. Which of course, as I say, keys, tones, frequencies, the ring, a phone rings, So here we're in the barren land. Remember the barren womb on the bottom of that tower. They always show this barren land and the collide of light. We've actually got black and white there, which would represent the two pillars. But going down into the abyss, into the bottomless pit, and cracking open, unsealing what they are sealed in with the ring there. Total ritualistic stuff. Now, remember, it's Shiva in the ring. Shiva as the cosmic dancer who performs his divine dance. Shiva, the ring, just like the London Eye, the gates, the London Eye, Shiva. And at CERN, they have, obviously, as some of you may know, they have the statue of Shiva, the cosmic dance. That's what all of this is about. And the gate. One ring to rule them all. Here we go. Is that familiar thing in the car commercial I covered recently? You see this whole light particle collide stuff, and out of it in this one you get the aperture of the camera. The aperture being the eye, the lens, the iris, Siri, iris, lens, gate, and the collide of light, the God particle. They believe that God is represented by this atomic power. From the abyss, all womb abyss stuff, demons trapped in there, of course, and that's what I believe they are trying to open.
Well, that was a little more insightful, a little deeper. Now we've seen the public face, and we've seen the signals and the occult messages that they want to send us. And it seems obvious that they're working to open an abyss, a time portal, a wormhole, something interdimensionally, so that things in another dimension can come here. And supposedly, rumor has it, and forget that I said this, but rumor has it that the last time that portal opened, some of the scientists looked through, and there were giants on the other side. So some people are speculating it opens a portal to the Anunnaki, that the Anunnaki is separated in dimensions from us and not in time, or both. So they're opening a portal that could bring some things in. And I would suggest, knowing the control system, that these things aren't going to be so nice. Because our control system now isn't so nice. It's a dark satanic cult. A dark satanic death cult, actually. And I'll talk more about that in the second hour. But I wanted to end this hour with another idea that an insider from CERN has on what they might be getting from this process. This process might be a process that produces antimatter or dark matter, which is really strange, mysterious stuff. We're going to play this clip. This is an interview with Mike from around the world, and I'll put his contact information at the bottom. It's the councilofTime.com is his website. He certainly sounds like a CERN insider, and he discloses this stuff called antimatter. While he's talking about it, I want you to keep in mind, how could this be weaponized?
People want to understand what CERN is. If they would just indulge me for a little bit, they'll have a clear understanding of why they're doing it, what they're looking for, and what is the potential and the facts that will come out of these experiments. CERN, and amazingly, it won't come from the scientific community or anybody who has knowledge of physics. They will not tear it apart because they understand what I'm saying. So I'm gonna make this as basic as possible. I want you all to imagine, if you want to know what CERN is doing, I want you to imagine you come into a world and you find architecture all over the place, buildings and homes and houses, and you think they're beautiful, and it's really a big discovery. You find out with the houses, you can house people. You can do many things with a house, with a structure. All of a sudden, after many years, you become curious and you say, what's holding all this together? And you begin to find not nails that you can take out, but glue that has bonded itself to the materials. And you become interested in that glue that's holding the structure together. And so you're fascinated by this glue, and you've tried everything to replicate it. You can't, because it's hardened. Glue is hardened. You come to the realization the only way to find out how this glue is working is to break it down to its basic particles. And you have to have that glue in its former state, not the state after it's already hardened, right? So you don't want it in the cured state, the state that you can see. You want it in its initial state, which is a liquid state, before it hardens. And so CERN, basically, is a device that will allow them to examine particles in their initial state, not after everything is bonded together. That's a very simple way to look at what CERN is doing. They're trying to find the glue that holds everything together, is what they're doing. That's the purpose of CERN. Now, what has come out of CERN is called antimatter, which was first actually produced. It was first produced in 1955. And CERN is a very old organization, but it was produced in 1955, and they found positrons, which are anti-electrons. To understand what antimatter is, I'm going to have to explain the very bare basics of what matter is. And believe me, it's going to get very weird here shortly, because you're going to begin to see exactly what they're doing. But you have to understand what you're looking at now. The matter and antimatter are in fact opposites. Now, the matter that we have in front of us, if you take a piece of wood, nothing happens. It's just a piece of wood. But if you set that wood on fire, you have caused a reaction. And then it's in a dangerous potential state. It's active. If you have a battery outside of your cell phone, it does nothing. You put the battery inside the cell phone, the electrons begin to flow. The electrons will flow from one place to another. Essentially, that's what electronics are, the control of electrons. They control the direction, the speed of electrons, which create tiny pulses. They flow or don't flow, flow or don't flow. Those are called gates. Those gates form computers. And with a computer, we can do fascinating things. This is why they did, in fact, take Nikola Tesla's findings, because he discovered some things with electrons and protons that were very fascinating. Electricity within itself is a visual observation of electrons and protons in their active state, non-controlled state. Antimatter is the opposite of the matter that we can control. Antimatter cannot be controlled. In fact, when they first produced antimatter, they had to have a facility to contain it, because unlike the wood, where you have to have a reaction to cause it to burn, antimatter, you have to have a containment to cause it not to burn. That's the only way they can store it, with massive facilities to store it. Let me give you an example. In a nuclear bomb, it takes timing, which takes electronics, and the explosions have to be just right to cause a reaction. That's a nuclear bomb, like the Hiroshima bomb, which takes pounds of nuclear material to cause it to react. And it has to be very precise. Well, let's go the opposite. Let's say we had antimatter, correct? If we had 1 gram of antimatter, that would equal about 42 or 40, let's just say 45 kilotons of TNT, which is about 4 Hiroshima bombs. And it's already inherently unstable. It's unstable. The only way to harness antimatter is to contain it. And it takes very large and expensive facilities to contain just 1 gram of antimatter. Some have failed, some have not. If those containment devices fail, they cause megaquakes. That's what happens when they fail. Now, we're talking small, tiny drops of antimatter. I mean, just drops of raw antimatter. It's highly unstable. It has to be isolated from the rest of reality when it's contained in a literal sense. Now, given that this can be weaponized, which is true, there are other implications that the average person has not thought about. Our body is held together by that glue that they're searching for, that bonds matter together. Those who understand what's called the standard model, they have a pretty good idea of what would happen if the force table in the standard model is just an explanation of how all things work. You're dealing with matter and force, and they have categorized the elements of matter, everything we can touch and feel and observe, in what's called quarks, the building blocks, of protons and nuclei, and leptons, which are essentially, well, that would be like an electron. And then we have force. Force are lumps of energy that transmit the forces that bring matter to life. Like a photon, it carries the electromagnetic force. Without a photon, we couldn't produce motors or anything else. Without gluons, which carry a strong force, neutrons and protons would not be held together. In other words, the universe would not exist. And of course, you have your W and Z particles, which are for weak forces that govern radioactivity. So you have this standard model, and they have broken this down. But what they're looking for is a higher explanation of how everything works. This is the particle they're searching for. Now, they found half of it. They already found a component of it. That was the Higgs field. Now, the Higgs field is an explanation they found the traces of the Higgs field. They can now observe the Higgs field. The Higgs field is what is found wherever matter is not. In your room, the Higgs field is in operation. Listen, with the Higgs field, they can begin to alter reality as we know it. Now, a lot of people they can't capture that right away. But you have to remember, our world is made up of matter. The antimatter is what we can't see, what we can't touch, what we can't feel, though we interact with it every day. A lot of people like to think of antimatter as the other dimension, which is the opposite of this dimension. It's an inconceivable place that is hostile inherently. It's not under control. It's very hostile. This dimension would be the more tamed dimension. Here's what they've done since the 1930s. Well, actually, since the 1800s. There was a group that studied nothing but the phenomena of paranormal activity, not like you've seen on TV, not like you've seen in Hollywood, not like anyone knows about. But they studied the science behind paranormal activity and have then defined that this is called a dimensional slip, where things can obviously interact with this world all the time. And they were wondering the interactions between known matter and that type of matter. But they also found with antimatter, this antimatter can be absorbed by any realm of paranormal activity. It is, in effect, neutralized and absorbed. So there's a physical effect to the spiritual world in antimatter. And often, demonic entities and all these other paranormal things are attracted to antimatter. They're attracted to it. For every gram of antimatter that's produced, and then it's bought into this world, when they produce it, it attracts things from another dimension coming here. What is CERN going to do? Is to allow humanity to produce pounds of antimatter. The consequence of this search to gather more and more of this matter, by the way, they have a more efficient method of pulling out or gathering antimatter, which is why they need to know the properties of some more properties of this particle they have described. Once they have these properties, they will be able to extract as much antimatter as they desire efficiently. It's right now to obtain antimatter is very inefficient. It's very inefficient. In other words, to get a pound of it would take about 10,000 years at the current rate. It's just not going to work. CERN will allow them to do that probably within a week. But here's the consequence. They've observed the energy of both matter and antimatter. They found out that antimatter is intimately tied to every single life form on this planet. They found out that energy signature is the same energy signature in all life on this planet. All life, none excluded. Found out when any life form is in the presence of antimatter, the energy of the life form changes. The energy changes. I'll put this in basic terms. A person has both dark and light already in them. It's part of their makeup. It's what you can't live in a material world without antimatter. Nothing would exist. And so a person has both good energy, which would be this realm, this realm of matter, but they also have energy of antimatter. So they're connected. A person is connected to both realms at the same time on the energy level. And they don't even know it. They don't know it. And they have found, certainly, with all the experiments they have found out why paranormal activity exists. They know exactly what it is. They don't want to tell anybody. This is why they perpetuate foolishness on television. But every single person, every single life form is connected to that realm, that other realm, into this realm of reality all the time. Now, a person's thoughts, how a person feels, and doctors know about this too, how a person feels will determine which energy they draw from. You can draw from this realm, good realm, and you have positive results. That's called faith. That's why doctors believe in it. That's why they give out placebos. They know that if a person believes something is helping them, they have it within themselves to repair. They can command their bodies to be repaired simply based on belief. And people think they work. And people have recovered from cancer. People have recovered from back injuries. Quadriplegics have been repaired simply by their own faith. This other realm, because that energy is contained in another dimension, so to speak. That's the containment wall. But when a person draws that energy in, it is the opposite of this realm. In this realm, again, we have to light a piece of wood with a flame to catch it on fire. In that realm, it's already on fire. You have to contain it to see the wood because it's engulfed in flames. It's the opposite of this realm. When a person changes their emotional state, their energy changes, and they begin to draw their energy from this other dimension, this chaotic and violent and uncontainable place where they draw dark matter from, intimately linked. And it's in operation all the time. Now, the scientists, they are aware of this. Now, here's the other part that's not so comforting. On the spring equinox, forces change on the Earth, and they know this. They know that forces do change, which will, in fact, allow them to have better results. And believe me, it's timed perfectly. It is timed perfectly. With the basic introduction of what CERN is doing and what it is, and the dark matter and matter itself, now we get into the heart of the matter of what's actually, there will be consequences. It's just that there have been consequences before. Nobody took notice. And the energy signature of dark matter, which, by the way, resides everywhere. But once you bring it into this realm, where we can actually see it and observe it, it attracts things from the other realm. Dark matter is tied to dark matter. Everything has a connection. Everything has a connection. That connection can never be broken by anything. If they bring dark matter into this realm, it's still connected to that realm where the dark matter came from. No matter how far away they put it anywhere, it's still connected. Because that realm is everywhere and it's still connected. Because it's connected, it effectively increases paranormal activity around where it's contained. And this is why they shift facilities of where they once kept dark matter in a college. I won't name it for the sake of the college, but the university, they had to move it to a deep underground facility because of what was happening to the people in the college. People began to have vivid dreams, nightmares. The violence began to erupt and vile things began to happen in those places. And it's because it's a chaotic piece of matter. It is just chaotic. And it's very difficult to contain something that is so powerfully chaotic. This is what an explosion is, by the way. When an atom bomb explodes, it releases chaos. Chaos in the form of chemicals, reactions, and everything is out of order. An explosion is the absence of order. That's what an explosion is. When you contain something, you're giving it order. So it's controlled. Here's the worst part. Understanding that dark matter is always connected to its source, which is that realm where the dark matter came from, the realm that's all around us. Just imagine that dark matter being the ocean, right? Imagine this realm being the submarine. We're all in the submarine having fun, and we're doing our thing, and we have disagreements here and disagreements there. And then we find out there's a hole in the sub, but the hole is not, we thought the hole was in the sub, but it wasn't in the submarine itself. It was, in fact, in the people. The people's water inside their bodies began to increase based on their emotions. Let's just say that. And the dark matter can then come into this realm through people. That's, in fact, what they discovered in 1950, that people can also produce dark matter by way of, it's very minute, it's very tiny, but it's measurable. It's quantifiable. In fact, they now know how much energy a person has to have before they go absolutely berserk. They also know how much of that energy signature a person must have before an entity from that realm can possess them, which also allow them to understand that not everybody can be possessed. Not everybody can be, but the person has to be prepared to be possessed. They have to be, in essence, they have to be a portal themselves to be possessed. Not everybody can be possessed. And so, not to get way off target, but this dark matter is everywhere. That is, that, you know what, all these things, here's what, I mean, it really gets to me, is that these scientists, over the course of many years, have quantified or they have calculated these things. They have extracted the truth.
Okay, that was a lot to take in, so let's take a quick break and come back in just a few minutes.
Welcome back to the second part of this world beyond belief, and where we're taking you deeper and deeper into Alice in Wonderland, I guess. In the first hour, we talked about CERN, what could be going on in CERN, the symbols they're giving us. It sounds like they're opening a portal to other dimensions, and not necessarily for us to go that way, but for something to come this way. Also, we just learned about antimatter, which is dark matter, which sounds like to me the evil inside of everything and everybody. You can see how that could easily be weaponized. Imagine something like Ferguson or Baltimore or around the Ukraine, opening up a can of antimatter. But I guess if you open it up anywhere, you open it up everywhere. And you open it up on the other side, the dark side too. So it would be an amazing, amazing weapon. And it just happens to be in the hands of the same bankers that financed all sides in the Second World War, caused millions and millions and millions of deaths, financed all of the despotic regimes around the world ever, and now they're in charge of CERN. So why do you think, this is a facetious question, why do you think this control system, this dark, satanic, death cult control system, would want to punch a hole through to the other side, to another dimension, a dimension that may be unstable and may house demons? Why would they want to do that? Well, the answer is obvious. And they've been upping their own personal satanic rituals, child abuse, infant killings, human trafficking lately, to get ready to have the power to do this, to break through into the other dimensions and allow these demons to come through. You see, you could always summon demons. Aleister Crowley and before, evil people could always summon demons and talk to demons. But you have to let them in. You have to encourage that. You have to do maybe rituals to get them to come in, and then they only stay for a short period of time. But if you open up this portal, hey, if they're not doing something on the weekend, they can just come over and vex the hell out of the human race. You know, I mean, I'm making light of it, but it could really be a horrible thing to do, to allow this energy to get involved in our world. But who would want to do this? Well, if you've been following World Beyond Belief, or you've been awakening for a while, you know that there's a satanic death cult that seems to be ruling the world, as evidenced in all the famine, in all the diseases that could be cured that aren't cured, pharmaceutical medicines that are making people shoot one another. I mean, and then of course there's the rituals, the evidence of rituals all over, including Bohemian Grove. But why would, but to understand the real why, we need to look at the latest incarnation of this cult. The incarnation that actually started in 1666. Let me give you a little history on those that control the Matrix today.
Sabbatai Zevi declared himself to be the Jewish Messiah in the year 1666. This false Messiah led the largest Messiah movement in Jewish history and attracted more than half the population of European Jews. How did he do it? By promising to return the Jews to their ancestral homeland in Palestine. Sabbatai Zevi made everything that was holy unholy. He rejected the rules of the Jewish holy books and every standard of Jewish decency. There would be no more guilt or sin or right or wrong. No more sexual taboos, no more 10 commandments, no more fasting. Instead, there would be feasting. Sabbatai Zevi's immoral leadership finally fell from grace when the Sultan of Turkey threatened him with torture unless he converted to Islam. Sabbatai converted to Islam, but he brought his infectious evil theology with him. 1 century later, Jacob Frank proclaimed himself to be the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi and the living Messiah for all Jews. Not even Sabbatai Zevi was as evil as Jacob Frank and his disciples. Jacob Frank rejected traditional Judaism. He reversed the truth and told his followers, since we can't all be saints, let's all be sinners. The best way to imitate God, said Frank, is to cross every boundary, transgress every taboo, and mix, as God did, the sacred with the profane. Orgies, incest, rape, and sexual intercourse with children, including sodomy on young boys, were no longer sinful. In 1773, Jacob Frank traveled to Frankfurt, Germany, the birthplace of the Illuminati. That's where he formed an unholy alliance with Adam Weishaupt and Mayor Amschel Rothschild's banking dynasty. The ambition of the Rothschild dynasty was to win control of the world's gold, central banks, and wealth. The Rothschilds sent John Jacob Astor, Jacob Schiff, and Paul Warburg to America, where they influenced the privatization of the Federal Reserve banking system and the dismantling of the American Constitution. The goal of Weishaupt and the Jesuits was to take control of the Vatican and its hierarchy of Catholic clergy. Weishaupt formed the Order of the Illuminati and infiltrated the Freemasonic lodges with his doctrine until every Masonic lodge in every nation accepted it. The Frankist goal was the destruction and replacement of Jewish ethics with a satanic religion based on the exact opposite of Jewish teachings. When this unholy alliance of conscienceless men was seeded, a cancerous war against humanity erupted. With Rothschild financing, Jacob Frank became fabulously wealthy and was put in charge of spreading a Lucifarian theology that would be the hidden hand behind future wars and revolutions. Jacob Frank's followers were called Sabbatean Frankists. They practiced witchcraft and occult rituals, including animal and human sacrifices. Lucifer, they declared, was the true God. The Sabbatean Frankists expanded their movement by masquerading as converts to other religions. They converted to Catholicism and to Islam, where they embedded themselves and spread their Luciferian infection as closeted crypto-Jews. The Frankists traded their wives and daughters with members and with powerful non-members who they needed to seduce into their cult. Jewish professor Gershon Scholem called Jacob Frank one of the most frightening men in Jewish history. By 1776, Orthodox Jewish rabbis and leaders rejected Jacob Frank and the pagan invasion of evil that took hold in 18th century Europe. They declared Jacob Frank and his Lucifarian followers to be heretics. Jewish author and historian Dr. Henry Makow has thoroughly researched the Sabbatean Frankist movement.
The Sabbatean Frankists were out and out Satanists. They believe that they have to defy any kind of natural morality, defy any kind of natural law, defy God, and they actually indulge in every kind of depravity as a form of worship, because they worship Satan. And they promoted promiscuity, and that's where our promiscuity today comes from. It's 200 or 300 years old. There's nothing new or avant-garde about it. They promoted incest, they promoted pedophilia, and every kind of sexual depravity.
America's Zionist-owned media falsely reported that Iran's President Ahmadinejad threatened to wipe Israel off the map. This was a mistranslation. What the president of Iran really said is that Israel is occupying Palestine and has no legitimacy on the world map. Traditional Torah Jews and rabbis agree with him. There is speculation that the revolutionary document called the Protocols of Zion is a secret Sabbatean Frankist document. This document embodies 24 protocols which map out a detailed Zionist plan for global control. The protocols, written in the late 1700s, describe in precise detail the world domination plan that is unfolding today. Rabbi Marvin Antelman charges that the world today is ruled by a Sabbatean Frankist satanic cult that has conspired with the Illuminati to destroy all religions and fuse all nations into one.
Well, that was interesting information. When I first heard that, it really clarified a lot of stuff, because now I know what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is do everything they can wrong, do everything they can bad, and now they're summoning their buddies in. It's not like it's a new thing, happens in the culture all the time. What you're looking at behind me is a statue of Moloch. Now, Moloch is an ancient Canaanite devil symbol. You'll find that Satan, the devil, Lucifer, Moloch, Beelzebub, it's all same or similar kind of entities. So, and I think it's all kind of interchangeable, although we're going to get to the difference between Lucifer and Satan a little bit later in this hour. But this is a statue that Moloch is of Moloch, and what they do every year with Moloch is they sacrifice supposedly children. It's what they call the cremation of care ceremony. And the cremation care ceremony goes back millenniums and millenniums. And it's a ritual designed to ensure financial well-being for the people that perform the ritual and sacrifice the children. Now, they used to sacrifice children to Moloch in ancient Canaan. But now they say they just use plastic baby dolls. Now, come on. That's like Clinton, a famous coke addict, saying that he never inhaled weed. I mean, it's lunacy. So there's probably a lot of killing going on there. I can't prove it, but I know that there's death cults all over the country. Jay Parker, who was born into a satanic family, claims that there's 34 million of these people that do these rituals, sacrifice, have sex with children, very, very, very young children, to get power. And we can talk about that another time, how having sex with children does something to them, does something to you. But enough said that it's in the culture. We live in a world controlled by a death cult. that seems to want to open a portal so that it can be more and more powerful. Now, whether God allows that or not, whether we can stop it or not, and what we can do about it, we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's easy to see that the culture is going, it's becoming very, very stylish to summon demons. Actually, if you go on YouTube, and I could pull up a couple websites and I pull up a couple videos, but I don't want to bless them or advocate them. Actually, I don't want to get involved with them. I don't want them to be in my computer, actually. But you can go on if you're interested in the whys and hows of summoning demons. Actually, I watched one a couple weeks ago, and this person was explaining which demons to summon for whatever you want. And you know, demons really cater to the ego because they tell you that the ego is all there is. So they're kind of anti-spiritual, totally materialistic. So I see that happening a lot. Also, it's really hard not to see rituals going on all over the place. Here we have Katy Perry summoning, she's doing a summoning ritual. She seems to be summoning dark forces here. Grammy's satanic theme, yet again. And then, of course, we have no morality. There's no morality, so we can do what we want. Do what thou wilt. That was Aleister Crowley, who's a famous Satanist. His motto. Also, we have where do we have a couple Madonnas? No, we don't.
This one, do. Try this one.
Oh, here we have Madonna gesticulating there in our YouTube video. Now if that doesn't look satanic to you, you've just been playing video games and watching too much TV. I mean, that's got to be obvious. And it's really stylish. I mean, kids dress like this. They dress in black. It's amazing. Okay, that's enough of her. Also, what we're doing in our culture is we're legitimizing blood drinking. And here is Keisha drinking it from a heart. Now, I've been told recently by someone who knows that when you drink from the heart of someone who's terrified when they die, it's full of adrenochrome, which is a chemical with adrenaline in blood, and it gives you a real rush. You know, drinking blood is actually very addictive. So once you start doing it, it's very hard to get out. And this is part of our culture. It's really, really strange. And for the kids, let's not leave the kids out. For the kids, there's the Charlie Challenge. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of this, but if you're curious, just go on YouTube and click on the Charlie Challenge, and you'll see a couple things. One, you'll see children getting involved in Ouija board type activities where they're summoning demons. Now, you know, if you don't believe in demons, if you don't believe in the dark forces, then you just have to look at what's going on around you. You know the control system believes this. They do rituals to it. They risk their careers having sex with children and doing these rituals. So get with the program. It's real. You may not think it's real in your world, but the sooner we all wake up, the sooner we can stop this, and it won't be part of our real world. Well, anyway, back to Charlie Challenge. Check out those videos, and you'll find two things. One, you'll find a very mysterious way of approaching this thing. The kids are partially frightened because they know something could happen, and they're partially playing. But it's kind of a rude awakening. Another thing that I found that you're going to find too is how these children express themselves, not only the language that they use, which is pretty rough, but also the simplistic way that they put together their sentences and their expressions, and it just sounds like if this is the next generation, if it's characterized by the Charlie Challenge, I think we're in really deep shit. I'll just tell you, because I don't know where we're going to go from there. Now, moving along. Well, it's real easy to see how we could weaponize antimatter or dark matter. I mean, all you have to do is unleash it, and if you could learn to control it or house it, you're halfway there. All you have to do is take it in. It changes there. It turns everybody into a demon. I mean, it brings out the worst in you, the temper in you. It makes you infuriated. I mean, it's like there was a movie called 28 Days many years ago, and in 28 Days they had these baboons, and they had either shown them, they either injected them with something or showed them violence on TV, and after 28 days they just came out and wreaked havoc on mankind. Of course, they love to do that in Hollywood. So it's easy to see how you could weaponize antimatter. But demons, how do you weaponize demons? I mean, do you just use them in rituals, or what happens? What happens with the demons? Well, there was a thing that came around several years ago, many years ago now, called Project Bluebeam. Now, Project Bluebeam was discovered by a couple researchers, young Canadian researchers, who pulled this plan. Project Bluebeam is a plan hatched by the control system to create chaos out of order, so that they can create order out of chaos and put in their draconian control system, ruled by a Lucifarian Antichrist that is probably going to arrive here by way of, you guessed it, a CERN tunnel or something. So Project Bluebeam was discovered, and it was made public by these two people. Well, they both subsequently had heart attacks. So that punished them, but it also gave the document credibility. Now, what gives it credibility to me is the fact that all the technology needed to do Project Bluebeam has been developed and is in place. It probably was when this document was put forth. But let me tell you, let me explain a little bit, read a little bit from this document. It's a four-step project. It's a four-step process, and you can see where we kind of are in the graduation of this process. First of all, the first step concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with staging earthquakes at certain precise locations around the planet where we supposed new discoveries will finally explain for them that the meaning of the basic doctrines of all the world's major religions are wrong. Well, they're discovering a lot of things. I mean, we discovered Göbekli Tepe, which seems to point to a more paganistic thing. But I'm not sure whether they're even going to go with that, because they've done such an incredible job with the New Age religions. Incredible job with the New Age gurus. So much so that if Mindy and I are in contact with anybody that's been under the influence of what they called the Aquarian conspiracy, which is where all these theosophical-based satanic Lucifarian doctrines were disseminated through gurus and organizations. I really don't think they need to shake the foundation of traditional religions anymore, besides the fact that the traditional religions are so infiltrated. They're so controlled by the control system that they're going to go whichever the way the wind blows. And I could see them flipping over to being Lucifarian within a month's time. I mean, you have the Pope today, I just heard a minute ago, is coming out and being very socialistic, very people-oriented. Here's a guy who's probably the richest cat in the world, controls more people than anybody I can think of. And he wants to go toward the people. I mean, he's part of the control system. He is a big part of the control system. So whatever he says, it may be true, but it ain't going to be good. Let's go on to the second one. The second step deals with the gigantic space show. 3D optical holograms and sounds, laser productions of multiple holographic images in different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to its predetermined original national religious faith. This new God image will talk in all languages. You know they have that technology. They can create monsters coming out of the sky, supposedly to defeat the Iraqi Royal Guard, or what are they called? The King's Guard or whatever. They seem to lay down their arms. Could it have been that we used the holograph technology with frequencies into the mind? They can pump things into minds, and you think that it's your thoughts. Actually, there was a billboard in New York City that did it for a while. When you'd go by the billboard, it would talk to you and tell you to think da-da-da-da-da. So it's already in place. They could pull that out anytime they want to. I think they're doing it. Actually, they have remote neural, what do they call it?
Programming?
It's not neural programming. But they can target someone, download his or her emotions and thoughts, and pump it back to them whenever they want it to give them a feeling, give them an idea. They can do it one at a time. And they're on the verge with Google of creating a cloud so that they can do this to masses of people. So that's right on the horizon too. The third step deals with telepathic electronic two-way communication. ELF, VLF, and LF ways will reach people in the earth through the sides of their brains, insides of their brains, making each person believe that his own God is speaking to him within his own soul. That's what I talked about before. That's part of the holographic combination with the mind control.
The voice-to-skull technology.
Voice-to-skull, that's what they call it. Voice-to-skull technology. You're the skull, by the way. The fourth step involves universal supernatural manifestations using electronic means. It contains three different orientations. The first is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to occur upon every major city in the earth. This is to push each major nation into using its nuclear capability to strike back. In this manner, it would put each of these nations in a state of full disarmament before the United Nations after the false attack. So, could you get these demons to pretend to be aliens? Could you get this thing staged so that nuclear bombs would go off and create the biggest consternation in the world? Maybe you could. If you were the one that brought them in, dance with the one who brought you, who brung you. The second is to make the Christian believe that a major rapture is coming with a simple, played divine intervention of an alleged good alien force coming to save the good people from a brutal satanic attack. Aha! Its goal is to get rid of the significant opposition to the New World Order. Now, this is pretty clever. You know that most of the Christians are waiting for the rapture, and they're going to be easily sucked in to anything that's going to present itself as a as a good, light, loving force. Could come down on a spaceship, any way. Because Christian, after studying Satanism for years now, you realize that Jesus Christ is the opposition. It's the one the Satanists consider to be their opposition. It's the pole. It's the pole for goodness. They're the pole for darkness. Not to be the same as goodness and light, or darkness and lightness. This is evil and goodness. So they'll make fun of Jesus Christ. It's the only God that they make fun of. It's the only person they make fun of. There's no other deity. They don't rag on Ganesh or Buddha or anybody. And certainly not Shiva, since Shiva's the god of death, and they're a death cult. So to get these people that seem to have some kind of morality, some type of focus on the good, out of here, so that they can deal with the what they consider the goats, this would be a great plan. And every Christian needs to know that this could happen, that the rapture, if they're experiencing it, it could happen. And of course, the satanic demons would be the ones that are driving the Christians into the hands of these, what I think will basically be kidnappers. The third orientation is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves, frequencies, used at that time will allow supernatural forces to travel through fiber optics cables, coaxial cables, electric and telephone lines in order to penetrate all electronic equipment and appliances that will by then all have a special microchip installed. The goal of this step deals with the materialization of satanic ghosts, specters, and poltergeists all across the globe in order to push all populations to the edge of a wave of suicide, killing, and permanent psychological disorder. So imagine that. You have these satanic demons manifesting themselves, walking out of the refrigerator or the toaster or whatever thing is set up to bring people in through a coaxial cable and vexing you. It's called, when we first read this, we really laughed, because this is an amazing, freaky kind of thing. I mean, how could they do it? Well, easily, if you're manifesting demons out of the pit of hell, and you could throw in a little dark anti-banner. You know, I can't think that God would allow this, but it would really be a circus if this is what they're planning. And remember, CERN isn't a moment. CERN isn't happening this summer, happening in September. It could happen any time. These manifestations could happen any time, because it's a 3-year project. And they have plenty of time to collect their antimatter or make their holes in space, however they're going to do it. So, what can we expect from these demons? Well, to find out, you just need to go to the satanic cults, or what I like to do is go directly to the head. I like to go to Aleister Crowley. Now, Aleister Crowley, if you've been listening to World Beyond Belief, you know a little bit about Aleister Crowley. He lived at the beginning part of the 20th century, and he was a practicing Satanist. He's the one that coined the phrase, "do what thou willst." In other words, there's no morality, do what you want, whatever's good for your ego is good. And he was called the wickedest man in the world. I think he called himself the Beast. He bragged about killing, buggering, and then killing 180 boys. That's why he dubbed himself the wickedest man in the world. Of course, he also worked for the OSS, which is the predecessor of the CIA. He was kind of a in-and-out consultant kind of guy. And supposedly has interbred with the Bush family, but that's speculation. No one knows that for sure. What he did is he would commune with these demons. Actually, he has a book called something about demons. Trust me. It's Aleister Crowley on demons, and he lists the demons and their characteristics. If you go on YouTube and you watch these videos on summoning these demons, you'll find that they all have different characters and they're different types. Anyway, Aleister would love to bugger these children. He would love to have anal sex with them because he felt that having anal sex did a lot of different things. One, it locked the person down in their lower chakras, which is where demons can come in and out of. Also, he considered the anus a stargate because when he was penetrating the anus, either he or the receiver of his gift would get glimpses of nirvana or such. But anyway, let's go on and let's look at these. Let's look at demons. I don't have Aleister Crowley's book. I don't feel like spending my money on Aleister Crowley stuff. But there was a fiction writer called H.P. Lovecraft that operated during the same time. And although he was a fiction writer, he had demons, and these demons were characters. And I will bet anything that he was very highly connected. And I bet these demons pretty much coincide with the demons that would be described by Aleister Crowley. We might do that someday in a later discussion, talk more about demons. But here I am at the, I can't even pronounce this first, Cthulhu mythos deities, created by, of course, Lovecraft. But let's see how he describes some of these. He called them the great old ones. And if you have been involved with Satanists or people that summon these demons, they consider themselves gods of these ancient civilizations. Like this was the god of ancient Babylon. This was the god of the Persians. This was the god of Cush. And they call these gods in to help them. You know, one man's god's another man's demon. That's what I say. Let's look at a few of these descriptions so we can kind of get ready for demon management. The first one is Ab-Holos. Other name is Devourer in the Mists. He's a gray festering blob of infinite malevolence, described as a lesser brother of Sathuga, or spawn of Chuluhu, born from his bile and tears. So that might appear from your refrigerator or computer. Let's get down a little bit further. Ammon Gorloth, which is this one right here, a gigantic, mysterious entity whose cult is perhaps coincident with that of an Egyptian god Ammon, once dwelling in a gigantic place known as Gizeh, near the Valley of the Kings. His dreaming force was able to shape reality, making 3,000 years ago flourish the Nile before stars ceased to be right and desert advanced, entombing the titanic body of the god beneath the sands. Priests of his cult have built up secret subterranean mausoleums to access the great old one's body and please the slumbering god, giving cattle as sacrificial victims. There's one. And then there's Afum Zeha, appears much like Chita, but gray and cold. Let's skip down out of the A's. Here's Kotlaku. He's a serpent-skirted one, a human-eyed reptilian giant with two facing snakes in place of a head as a Kotlaku statue, She was former mate of Yig, revered in Kin Yan, along with her consort, the CTHAAT, which would be the Tat? Chat. Formless mass of shape-shifting water. Here's Sahiga, destroying eye, the waiting dark, appears as a gigantic mass of tentacles with a single green eye in the center. And I was thinking, well, I don't know how many there are here. Probably 50 of these characters, maybe more. Maybe 100. My God, look how far we're going down. But this list, I was thinking when I first saw it, is this all there is? You know, is this the total demon cult that we're going to have to deal with? I was thinking there's 6 billion of us, or 8 billion of us, depending on who you believe. Well, you know, that's not a lot of demons to go around. But it never tells you whether this is one demon or a class of demons, or these demons have, what would you call them, sub-demons? I don't know how that would work. But it's an interesting topic, especially since CERN keeps working and we might be dealing with these things. I think what we'll do one day is we'll get Aleister Crowley's book and go through the demons that he was able to summon. You know, I hate to even do this though, because it's pulling in an energy. I'm thinking about an energy that I don't really want to have in my head. So, anyway, that's what's going on with the demons. Now, CERN, as I said before, started back up in March. Started at the spring equinox. By the way, the image you're looking at is an ancient image of CERN Unos, the horned god. Actually, he's been around quite a long time. He's pictured in the caves of Lascaux in the Pyrenees Mountains. So he's been around a while, coming in and out of this other dimension that they're making a big portal for. But you might be saying, well, what can we expect in terms of a schedule? When might this begin? When might it be happening? Well, you know, CERN is the recent session of CERN has been going on since March 21st. They do it on equinoxes and summer solstice and the winter solstice. They end it on the fall equinox, this section. So they must be pulling things in. I've gotten word that they're having a lot of success this year, what they consider success. So, you know, they could be storing these things up. They could be practicing with opening these portals. They could be importing some of their demon friends. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? You can't get a straight answer from people in authority anymore, so who knows? But since it's a 3-year project, I think we can expect things to kind of materialize, you know, maybe more of the Blue Beam project rolling out. That being said, there's a lot of things going on in September. September's turning out to be another 2012, December 21st. You know, a big date everybody's looking forward to not necessarily forward to, but looking toward as a big event. So while last month or so, when we would hear a prediction of something happening in September, Mindy would write it down, and I'm going to have Mindy read her agenda. She wrote these things in to give us some idea of what might be going on in September. Not that I'm predicting anything.
No, these are other people's predictions. We just wrote them down. So starting with September 10th, we had a prediction from Max Egan, from a friend of his, an acquaintance of his in the banking industry, who said that on the 10th of September the economy will collapse.
Not good news, but was it over the weekend? No, it's a Thursday.
That is on a Thursday, and I believe something happens on the 11th. There's nothing written there. But the 12th is the last day of Shemitah, which is a 7-year cycle related to Judaism.
It also, in Shemitah, this is a 7-year cycle, but this is the 7th of 7-year cycles of Shemitah. So it's a significant Shemitah. And supposedly during Shemitah, in traditional Judaism, it would forgive everybody's debts. But that was real Judaism. That was probably kind of a good, healthful religion. As you saw earlier in the show, Judaism has been, or a lot of the Jews have been converted, both work, to this satanic death cult started by Sabbatia Zedia.
Right.
So let's continue with our update on September to come.
Okay, this one I didn't write down where we got this one from, but it says on the 14th, which is a Monday, the power grid goes down in the U.S. Lasts for 7 days and comes back on the 21st, and Wall Street closes.
Right.
The following day, the 15th of September, the last day of Jade Helm, and Stuart Swerdlow predicted a fake alien invasion, perhaps Blue Beam.
Right.
On the 15th. Then we skip ahead. We have a few days.
Exciting month, huh? Exciting month.
No predictions until the 21st, which is a Monday. The power outage comes back on.
It's also the equinox. And, you know, these ancient gods, or the ancient, they really time things. The equinoxes and the solstices are really important ritual dates for them.
Right, right. So there's something with CERN around that time, but I don't know what.
I think CERN's finishing on the 23rd.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Well, the next prediction is that Wall Street will reopen, but will end in a 7 to 25% drop. It is also the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia. The Pope arrives. And let's see, what does this say? Midday Hoover Dam breaks? ? From Eben Everlasting. Get on the Ark. Well, this is a movie reference.
Yeah.
That was a movie reference. So we have to take note of these movie references because we're finding after the fact that many times they are predicting things that will happen. September 22nd.
Now, if you think about the Wall Street opening and it going down 7 to 25%. Now, I'm not a good financial guy. Don't know much about it. Never been good with money. But I think if the stock market goes down, doesn't that mean the dollar goes up? If there's still a dollar at that time, they've got to have something to work it against.
I really don't know.
I'm guessing. Good.
I'm sure some of our listeners will know what to make of this. Okay, here's the big day. This day in my agenda's filled up. Okay, the 23rd of September, Pope Francis will be meeting with Obama. Now, this is either on the 23rd or 24th. I'm not totally sure which day Pope Francis comes to Washington to meet with Obama. I know he goes on from there to Philadelphia to that family.
Okay, let me interject here. The Pope is playing a big part in this, and I'm going to explain how that works right after we're done with the calendar.
Okay, this must also be a full moon because I believe it's Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement in the Jewish religion. Although at one point I wrote down Rosh Hashanah. It's either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. I know they're 1 week apart. The big one's Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Alfred Lambermont Weber predicted, or one of his guests predicted, on this day a global extinction. Climate chaos, perhaps an asteroid. We've heard people saying there might be an asteroid hitting in the Atlantic Ocean, and it says 2.5 mile wide meteoroid, perhaps. Whoops. I just did that. Okay. Christos, alien invasion, blue beam, holographic show. This is also something we heard from Alfred. Peter Kling, if you see desecration of the Holy Land, start heading for the hills. Flee to the mountains. Okay, and Alfred said, even though the fleet dominates the airspace, the beasts are still dominating the ground. Make of that what you will, I don't know. This is the week of the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia, and something with the CERN cycle, I think the end of the 6-month cycle. And it's also the Jubilee, the end of the 49 years since Jerusalem was, since Israel was established. Big day. Big day. Oh, here it says last day of CERN on the 24th. The French foreign minister, in a speech, predicted a 500-day countdown to the abyss and climate chaos. And the 24th is that last day of the 500-day countdown.
Yeah.
So, big couple of days, right in the middle of the week, a Wednesday and a Thursday. And the following day, on the 25th, is the big music festival called Tomorrowland, starting in Atlanta, lasting until the 27th.
Thank you very much.
So there you have it.
That's an exciting September for you.
Been following the unfolding of events.
So we'll be happy to pass through September with no incidents, but everybody's looking forward to something happen. But we've gone through with Y2K and December 12th, 2012. So let's hope that this is no different and we can slide through. Or if something happens, it happens either to get rid of these guys or, pass to the next stage at least. The reason that we ended on Tomorrowland is because that's a big deal. I want you to realize that all the stuff that we've been talking about, or most of the stuff that we've been talking about with Satan, is the satanic aspect of this whole New World Order, death cult, darkness, opening the abyss. It's all dark. There's another half of it, and the other half of it's the one that's going to really get most people. The other half of it is the light side. Now, if you look at the what they used to call the Vermeer floors, which are the black and white checkered floors that they always have in Masonic halls, it's a major symbol of the Illuminati and of these death cults. The reason it's black and white is because there's two aspects of this takeover. There's the satanic, the dark aspect. Then everybody runs to the light aspect, which is the other aspect. The dark aspect is Satan. The light aspect is Lucifer. Lucifer's the one they want you to go for. Now, Tomorrowland is an example of I call it a ritual. It's a Lucifarian ritual. Now, Lucifarianism is really tricky because it comes off as peace, love, light, harmony, all that stuff that we started way back in 1969 with the first rock festival, the first big rock festival, which was Woodstock. But now it's much more dark in a light kind of way, if I can say that.
It's the cult of reversal, isn't it? So everything is backwards.
Everything is backwards, and they want to drive you from the darkness into seeing this light. All the New Age movement, the Aquarian conspiracy, put you in this movement. All the New Age gurus, that come out of the Theosophy Society are tricking you over to the light side. Remember, Lucifer's the light bearer. In the original Symmetry video, remember way back then when we were watching the symbols in the Symmetry video? Well, Lucas is the main character. Lucas is the light bearer. It means light. So it's all encoded and it's all coming forward. So what they're having is, after all these events, is they're having a big satanic ritual disguised as a Tomorrowland music festival. We're going to show you some images of that in a minute. I also want to tell you that a lot of the mainline religions, including the Pope, who has just come out with a 100-page document on how we should be nice to one another and share the wealth and everything. Meanwhile, the wealthiest person in the world could make this happen in a heartbeat rather than preaching to us. I think that it's all going to be flipped to Lucifer. It's all going to happen where all the New Age religions and all the stuff controlled by the Pope and all the New Age people that are jumping onto this Tomorrowland bandwagon. If you follow a New Age guru, please check them out. We've been checking them out, and we've been uncovering a lot of stuff. Believe me, I don't want to say this because I was so much into. I mean, I spent 30 years in New Age bookstores, looking through everything, studying astrology, studying every New Age thing, the Course in Miracles, everything that came forward. I was there. But you find, if you look deep enough, they're all connected with the CIA, the control system. They're all putting forward us to do these rituals, to seek peace. See, Lucifer's going to say, we want peace. New World Order will give us peace. Follow Lucifer, and there's one God. We don't disagree. I mean, look at all the wars that are occurring because of the wars between the Christians and the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews, and no more of that. We all have a religion because we can see Lucifer. He's here because we're bringing him through in a tunnel, actually. So let's dissect Tomorrowland, the Tomorrowland Festival that's coming up in September by my old friend Round Saturn Eye.
Tomorrowland is a major music festival. It's located in Belgium each year and has recently extended to Georgia in the United States. The festival in total attracts over 250,000 people. After seeing several images and videos lately of pictures from the event, I was overwhelmed by the esoteric and occult symbolism being used, and especially how it's being disguised as positivity and love. Because of course the greatest deception of alternate agendas is to masquerade as good and light. Tomorrowland is not a new concept. It's often been a focal point of Walt Disney himself. But even an area of Disney theme park is called Tomorrowland. Next year, Disney will release a movie under the same name. Now, Walt Disney himself was a 33rd degree Freemason and dreamed of a future utopia, uniting the world under the guise of a new age of love and spirituality. Although it sounds good on the surface, it's just a tool of the New World Order, or the New Order of the Ages, in which a one-world government, religion and money system will form the empire of the Antichrist. Now let me show you over the next 10 to 15 minutes some of the symbolism I spotted in the Tomorrowland Festival.
to introduce you to a new chapter of Tomorrowland.
Without fantasies, our hope slowly fades away. The time has come to open the book of wisdom and let the stories rise. Scream from the center of your heart and let the spirit of the books arise.
Over the next few days, I will unveil all my stories. They will inspire you to make your own dreams come true. The creatures of this world have told all the stories ever written, and they have come here to Tomorrowland to share their stories. And bring the stories out in you. And bring the stories out in you. And bring the stories out in you. And bring the stories out in you.
Enter the world of Tomorrowland and let yourself be amazed. Things are never what they seem. Try not to understand, because it is impossible. Witness how the miracle of creation unfolds before your eyes. And come alive. The flame of life burned brightly throughout these 3 days of madness. Do not be sad or mourn this end. Be like the phoenix, burning into her own flames, and arising from her own ashes, never being afraid of the end.
Now it is time for you to take your flame and carry it into the world. Take the flame of Tomorrowland with you and let it illuminate the darkness. Because if you keep the flame burning, we can return here next year and light it once more for another chapter of Tomorrowland.
Slowly and surely, they drew their plans against us.
Okay, bend over.
And slowly and surely, they drew their plans against us.
Keep this frequency clear.
Enjoy this trip. The sound ceased. Suddenly the desolation, the solitude became unendurable. While that voice sounded, London had still seemed alive. Now suddenly there was a change. The desolation, the solitude became unendurable. The passengers suffered, and all that remained was this golden fire. Suddenly there was a change. Enjoy this trip.
Keep this frequency clear.
Okay, that was a mind blower for me, but you know, it's just an outgrowth of the Aquarian conspiracy that's been happening for a long time. I know when my generation went to Woodstock, a lot of those musicians have come forward and said, you know, when I played there, something took over me. And I think they were satanically or ritualistically inspired even back then. But now it's high tech and it's very, very seductive. And that's Tomorrowland. I also want you to know that I'm not just signaling out the Pope and New Age religions, because all religions could be going this way. I heard a figure the other day that 28,000 American pastors, and I'm sure it's pastors and priests, have signed on to FEMA to work in the camps, to, you know, when they separate people, when they take people to FEMA camps, the males don't go the same place as the females, and the children go in a different holding area. So these pastors and priests are going to go around and comfort them. I'm sure a lot of them, there's a lot of huge churches, mega churches they call them, that are Lucifarian based because it's all about money. It's all about getting what you want. Look deeply. If you're following a religion, if you're following a guru, look deeply and make sure that they're not taking you this way, because why would they be there? I mean, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be... But you know, in saying that, there's a Mark Twain quote when he says, it's easier to trick people than to convince somebody they've been tricked. And a lot of times I've talked to someone who's following a guru that I've done research on, and I know that they're like a member of the Club of Rome or have been involved in child pornography. You can't talk them out of it. It's a very difficult thing. It's a very deadly cul-de-sac. A cult of personality where you follow someone is a really deadly way to go. So just be careful. Now, what I promised in the beginning of this video is a short course in demon management. If all these things are going to happen, even if these things aren't going to happen, I think the 3 things that I'm going to advocate here in demon management are good things to remember. Number 1 is remember who you are. Remember that you're a spiritual being having this experience in the materium. Whatever the game is, there's probably 1 of 4 reasons why we're here. We're either here for our entertainment or somebody's entertainment, or we're here for some kind of a punishment, or it's a training program, or it's a testing program. I suggest it's all 4, but we're here for some reason. And I think one of the major reasons, one of the major things that you need to get up every day with the intention of doing is doing the right thing. And we say this over and over again. There is a morality. There is right and wrong. You have freedom of choice. And so you can always choose to do the right thing for mankind. Service to others, and get a little bit away from service to self all the time. I think that remembering who you are, and remember that after this experience is over, you're going to continue. Make the experience worthwhile. Do the right thing. And no matter what the outcome is, don't be held on to any outcome. Whatever the outcome is, it'll be okay as long as you're doing the right thing. The second thing is, don't be afraid. Now, this is scary stuff. I mean, antimatter and demons coming out of your computer. This is scary stuff. It could happen. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility if you look back through ancient history. And we are on the cusp of something that humankind has never gone through before, in recorded history anyway. So it's important that you not be afraid. Now, let me tell you a little story. Back in 1993, I went to a MUFON conference. Now, MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. And they were presenting two people that I really admired at that time and wanted to see. One was Zecharia Sitchin, and the other one was Stanton Freeman, I can't remember which one. Both of them to me now are suspect. But I was really hot to go and see them. But for my price, the price of a ticket, I got to see 3 people. And the one that fit in, and I had to fit somebody else in. Well, I fitted in a woman named Carla Turner. She was going to do a seminar on alien abductions. I bought her book before I went to the seminar. It was called Beyond the Fringe. And I read it, didn't believe a word of it. So it was after, I believe, Zecharia Sitchin was in the morning. So around noon was this seminar with Carla Turner. And so I walked into the seminar. It was lighthearted. And I remarked to a woman who was going in with me, just to make conversation. I said, "Are you an abductee?" She said, "Yes, I am." And she showed me on her leg a mark that had been left by whatever entity had abducted her the night before. Well, this was sobering, but not as sobering as the seminar. I was in there with about 60 people. All of them were abductees, and they were talking about their different abduction stories, and there were about 3 or 4 different types of abductors. Carla came out. Her message was, "Don't be afraid." Now, I should tell you that these people were hot. These people were angry. But they weren't angry at the aliens. They were angry at the government. Because before, during, and after their abductions, their phones were monitors. They would have helicopters fly over their house. They knew that somehow the government interplayed with this and probably could have made it stop. Carla Turner's message to these people, which is probably a good message. I mean, these creatures, I suppose you could call them demons, that were abducting them and doing experiments on them. You couldn't prevent it. You couldn't lock doors. You couldn't keep them out. They would come through walls, come through computers, I suppose. They would just show up. So what she said was, disempower them by not being afraid. Leave your front door unlocked, sit up in your bed, be reading something, and when they come in, they come in. You're not afraid. You're not giving them back that energy. So I would advise you to follow Carla Turner's advice. If these things start happening, don't be afraid. Realize that they're whatever they are. Try not to be intimidated by them. I'm not sure how much power, other than frightening you, they're going to have over you. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. Also, if you remember the Tibetan Book of the Dead is an interesting book because it's a book written to be read to people after they die, as they go through the bardos. These are the different phases of death, the different dimensions that you pass through after death. And you'll read this into the ears of the person who's dead. Now, the only culture where brain dead is dead, where it's an absolute point, is the Western culture. Most other cultures, and older cultures, feel that you come in slowly. You're coming in the womb. You come in slowly. You don't really get totally in your body until maybe you're 27. And your leaving is a slow process. So when you're declared brain dead, there might be aspects of your spirit that hasn't totally left. So this book is to be read into the ears of the people I think it's 3 days. Do you remember 3 days after, during a 3-day period after they die? And it advises them to, when they encounter these demons, to realize that they could be or are figments of their imagination, and to not give them power by being afraid. Just allow them to pass through. And it sounds a lot like what Carla Turner was advising her people to do. By the way, Carla Turner was subsequently killed. So I think she was really onto something. Let's move on to the last point in my coaching for demon management. Don't allow anybody that's around you to go through this period of history by themselves. If you think it's scary with you and your family, just imagine how scary it is for the woman that lives next door by herself, or someone who is alone here or there. Get with people, form community. That's how you can get through this. I once proposed, and I still advocate, an idea called what I call a plan for 100 lovers. I suspect that if you would find 100 people who are pretty much on the same page as you are, who can see pretty much the same reality, and help them get through it. Make sure that there's food. If the dollar goes down, make sure that you're together, helping one another get through it. Make sure you have some water. Probably should have 2 or 3 months of food and water around anyway. Get together with people. If you don't like what the public schools are doing, band together. 100 people is strong enough to deny the vaccinations. 100 people are strong enough not to go to a school that they think something nefarious is going on to. 100 people, you have strength together. And the reason I say 100 is because if you limit it to 100, it's much less corruptible. Because when you get a large group, the control system has so many spooks. They have so many spooks that they can insert. We were talking to Abraham and Ella a couple podcasts ago, and because they're trying to uncover this atrocity, expose this atrocity that happened to her children in Hampstead, they're surrounded by spooks. People who want to help them, they turn out to be a spook. So be careful. That's why I want to limit it to less than 100 people. If another person comes along, you can decide to take them or not, but I would encourage them to find another 100 people. So plan for 100 people, plan for 100 lovers is what I call it, because we have to be so close that we're helping one another get through this. So those are my 3 demon management tactics. First of all, remember who you are, and remember there'll be an after this. So do what's right while you're going through this, and I think you'll be much more content after this. You'll learn much more. Number 2, don't be afraid. Take a tip from Carla Turner. Come on, give me your worst. Is that all there is? You can do it. And 3, don't let anybody go through this alone. Get close to people. Form community. And really stand up to the control system, because they're going to ask you to do things within the next couple of years that in conscious you can't do. So don't be afraid. There's no status quo. You're not going to go through this, and it's not going to be the same on the other side. It's either going to be one way or another. Either Lucifarianism is going to take over and rule your life and ruin your tomorrows, or you're going to be able to band together and push them off and create something really great, create a really great future for yourselves. Well, that's the end of World Beyond Belief for this week. I hope it's been interesting, entertaining, maybe taught you a few things. It's my 2 cents on the CERN and a little bit of coaching on demon management. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful week. Bye.